you kind of everything's amazing going forward, and you're still harping about me. It's like, well, you know, what's going on here? Is it a colour thing? Is it a colour thing? Is there a colour thing about that? Is there underbelly colour thing that...
Sol Campbell is one interesting bloke. What's going on, people? Urson here. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be reacting and reviewing Sol Campbell's appearance on the Stick to Football podcast. I'm 25 years old, so I never really got to see the best of Sol Campbell. My memory of Sol Campbell was when he was at Portsmouth winning the FA Cup before joining Notts County and then leaving 5 minutes in and then returning to Arsenal and Newcastle. But when I grew up understanding him, this guy is a Arsenal icon, a legend in the game. You know, he left Tottenham for Arsenal, which still rubs himself up the wrong way, as Tottenham fans call him Judas. They've hated on him. And over the past few months, he's had an iconic advert on the Google Pixel, but he's also become a meme. I watched the whole podcast, so you didn't have to. Here is my review on it.
I had a problem with in a particular game, you know, and it kind of lingered on for like 15 months, and it all started from the game against Derby County away. So I've got, I don't know, 2 years left.
What's the problem?
The problem is, you've got Colin Calderwood who's playing alongside me, and he was having a party all day long in the game against Bayano, the Italian player. I don't know why. Scored a winner, I went down, and I've gone off. So the game's finished, 1-0, everyone's happy, and I've gone off. Just back going to the change, into my change, he runs past me and he jumps into the Derby County, you know, and he's looking for Bayano. So everyone jumped in, and I've said, effing whatever, get back in change. Said it 3 times. Been captain, got in. 3 weeks later, I've got a letter saying, David Pitt comes to me and says, hey, Sol, I've got this letter, someone's broken their arm or wrist. I said, what? What do you mean? I've done nothing. I just said something 3 times, went in. 3 weeks later, goes on. They're looking to press charges.
Who is?
Me. The steward who broke his wrist.
At Derby.
At Derby after the game. I'm thinking, what is going on here? I've done nothing. So it rolls on, and then you've got to get Davids, and then you've got to give people who are going to come in.
I don't get this part. Like, what? He's putting one of the stewards injured themselves and put the blame on him. Yet he begins it off by going ham at one of his teammates for having a stinker. I don't get it. Like, what's he going at him?
Character witness and all that kind of stuff. Then you get drafted up there. You're in there. You're in the Derby County's police station. You know, I'm hiding. No one sees me. You know, it's a mess everywhere. And then you get in fingerprinted. Then you got in pictures. I'm thinking, and then at the same time, there's other people saying, "Oh, can I have an autograph?" I'm thinking, well, what is it? Am I getting arrested for something I've not done?
And that went on for 15 months.
15 months.
Wow.
And then you
the steward just said that you done it.
Yeah, you done it. And then I'm thinking, what is going on? Why is it going on so long? Because I've not done anything. So the last one was, you know, just before the case. I think it's an island. He's an internal lawyer. He said, here's a snippet. You know, a lord getting bound over. I said, what do you mean bound over? Well, bound over, you admit it. You pay a fine, it goes away. I said, what do you mean? I'm not going to do that.
This is the Tottenham lawyer.
Yeah, it's an internal lawyer. Yeah. So I live and die by my words. I've not done anything. Left it, and then goes on. Then the case is about a month away. Tottenham says, right, we'll pull it out.
What do you mean pull it out?
We're pulling out funding. We're not paying for anything anymore with the lawyers.
So you've got to pay for it?
I've got to pay for everything. So it takes a week to get the stuff in. And then my lawyer's looking through all the paperwork. And said, what's happening? Well, how has this gone on for such a long time? Because you're in front, then another kind of person said, one of the other guys said, you're on the side, in front, whatever, it's all over the place. How has this gone on for such a long time?
I'm so confused.
And then you got, 10 days before the case? They drop out. Wow. Case is dropped. And then in the paperwork, you look at, there was an old fax when they sent the paperwork to me, and it's got old fax back in the days, you saw the name scrubbed out. And then Derby County player put in there. And you've got the name of the player, and then also Derby County player. I was supposed to have done this at 10 to 5. But on the hospital report, he's done it like 10:30, like pre-match.
So how did that...
He's done it pre-match. So he's done 10:30.
So they've known that all that time, but it's dragged on this long?
Yes.
Tottenham knew that?
Well, it's either the hierarchy or the lawyers.
I just find the way he speaks, he talks everything but nothing at the same time. Like, he speaks a lot of riddles. I don't know. I'm left confused watching this.
Like the bound over, so we'll sign this, and if this comes out, we'll sign this crap deal.
So
I think it's all about the deal.
So basically, you're going through this legal case. Tottenham have, you think, lawyers and hierarchy of the club have seen documentation which shows that you're innocent of this incident, and you're simultaneously negotiating your football contract.
Yep.
And you believe they were using one.
As Gary Neville holding his hands like he's about to play the piano.
For sure. Just for me to sign a crap deal.
When you watch a podcast, what do you do in the time? Do you just sit there and watch it and pay full attention to it? Do you like to eat like I am right now and like have a drink, or do you like play video games? Like, what do you guys do? Because at times when you watch a podcast, you could get really bored and then into something else that you're doing. Like today, I've got a sweet and tangy prawn pasta salad and a Pepsi Max. And like watching this podcast, I already want to click off. I want to watch something else. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you like to do during a podcast.
Sort of money would say, would that be enough to double money, or you know what I mean?
I think for us, like for me, it was like half, and then it was chopped up as well. You had to kind of win this, win that, win this to get the full. I don't know.
That wasn't going to happen, was it?
That wasn't going to happen. That wasn't going to happen. Yeah, there's so many kind of ties on it.
But then it wasn't about the money, Sol. You were hard.
For me, that is like basically you wanted to kind of almost get one over me or have leverage over me just for me to say. It's like Van Dijk, going through a situation now. It's like trying to pin something on Van Dijk now. Same thing. Yeah. And then in the actual Sky, you've got Pleaty saying, "Well, we're trying to sling me out, put me in reserves."
Who's the manager at this time?
George Brown. Yeah, completely came, on the actual Sky kind of program, saying, well, Sugar wanted to kind of take me out of the first team, and then captain out of England just for me to kind of slap me on my wrist or keep me out of the game, so I come to my senses and sign a crap deal.
If all that hadn't have happened, do you think you would have signed the deal?
Yeah, I think for me, once that happened, I ain't got time for that. Yeah. Literally trying to put me away for no reason, and then you start thinking to yourself, well, how people are innocent and how people get put away for something they've not done. And then everyone's like, for me, going around and going to banks or whatever, people looking at me thinking I've busted someone's wrist, but it's something else. It's another player, South American player.
Have you spoken in detail about this before?
I said it in my book. No one said anything. I said it last time with a couple of podcasts and nothing.
So no one bought your book?
I might buy it now.
I had actually heard that story.
It's sad. It's unbelievable. You're a young boy coming out and then they're trying to pin that on you.
So there's no going back for you then? You were definitely going to get up, yeah?
Done.
So how long from the end of the trial being dropped was your contract left then? So how long do you have left? A year? And for that year, it was quite an uncomfortable year. Cause I remember at the time all the time the focus was on how you're going to sign. A little bit like sort of Van Dijk and Salah now. It was a lot of question every single week for the manager. It was a big thing. But also, there was no mention at that time of where you were going. There was no.
I didn't decide. I've not decided. But once that happened, I said, that's it. I'm not time for that. You don't get it to me.
You're odd. Ooh. All right, let's go into this bit. This is shared by Gary Neville himself.
You're one of the obviously great centre halves in the Premier League. I'm going to name something. I want you to talk about where you sit, where you place yourself.
Where do you think I sit? That's a better word.
Yeah, well, let's name the centre backs.
Let's name the questions.
John Terry, Rio Ferdinand, Nemanja Vidic, Virgil van Dijk, Vincent Kompany, Jaap Stam, and Jamie Carragher. Sorry,
there you go.
The player that
Sammy.
Yeah, Sammy. But he's a great centre half. I wouldn't put him probably in with those six. There might be some I've missed out: Gary Pallister, Steve Bruce, others, Tony Adams.
Yeah.
The one I think that you most like is Jaap Stam. So the reason I say that is when I played with Jaap, I felt like Jaap was one-on-one. I don't think he was beatable. I don't think you get past him. And I used to think you were like that with England and you were like that with Arsenal. No one's going past you just basically by speed or by strength or doing you in the air. So it's difficult because obviously Rio's a completely different centre back than you. The man is a completely different centre back with you. But I would put you sort of, if you like, in the Jaap Stam category. Where would you place yourself?
You've got Virgil van Dijk and those guys in there. And when you look at the players I played against, centre forwards, you run the names of, say, I don't know, you've got Thierry, you've got Dennis. You've got Big Dunk. He gave you a different type of problem in the air and physicality. You've got Emil Heskey. You've got Dwight, Shearer, Coley. All these guys. Dean Dublin, Ruben Fowler. Michael Owen, Rooney. All these guys are coming with a different kind of. You had to change your game. You
I'm
have
so
to
confused.
You can't be just I just want to be this and want to be that. No, you have to kind of compete.
The guy Sol Campbell. Where are you on that category of those players? Are you better than any of those players? And then this guy goes on a tangent about different strikers back in the day, back in his time. Bruv, are you better than the centre-backs that Gary Neville is talking about? Answer the question. There's like 5 different people there. Why is he going on a tangent? Come on.
Those kind of players are around now. In abundance, centre forward wise.
You think it's easier to be centre back now than it was then?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. There's quality forwards, but that kind of era, that's hard. Ian Wright. I had to deal with him. Trying to shout in my ear all the time, trying to put me off my game. But I didn't listen to him. So I'm not listening to him.
You didn't listen to me.
Didn't listen to him.
The players you just mentioned yourself. Basically, you must sit and go, I'm up there with them. Yeah.
Thank you.
For sure. Because I had to deal with all sorts of players.
He didn't even answer the question. He just said, I'm up there with those guys. So, I could tell he enjoys being the center of attention. And I get that he's the guest on the podcast. I wanted him to say he's better than Ferdinand, better than Vidic. I wanted him to be a bit arrogant in that sense, and that that was like an ear saw. It was an ear saw. What do you guys think of the podcast? Like, do you guys watch the podcast? Did you watch the podcast before you saw me? Like, there are things that I do like about the podcast. I love Ian Wright. I find Roy Keane hilarious. Wayne Rooney does have some good stories. Jill Scott is like an actual likable character. Like, people say that women shouldn't be involved in sports. I disagree. I find her likable. If she was my auntie, I would more than happy go to her house to talk about football. Gary Neville, I think he's a good journalist. I think he asks some really good questions. He keeps the conversation ticking. But I do dislike his biasness against Arsenal, the way he talks about Arsenal. It's very rage-baity content.
I feel like I'm too close. You're in early again.
Roy Keane, he'll end up coming in. Ian Wright comes in. They'll have a little chat about St. Patrick's Day, about the tea they're drinking. Jill Scott, there's a little bit of banter between her and what she was wearing. And then Wayne Rooney comes in, Sol Campbell comes in, and then they actually introduce the show. And what I like about it, it just brings a sense of relatability to it. And I makes them look more down to earth instead of the people that just, yeah, what's going on, people? Like, oh, Sol Campbell, how's your day going? How's your career? Whereas it's like, Sol, do you like PG tips? What's your go-to tea? Oh, you won't like Earl Grey. I like a PG tips. It's quite cool. It's quite different, and I like it. I like it.
Sometimes they get a fiddler in. The fiddler. I don't know if they're going to do the fiddler
Who's the
this year.
fiddler? Oh.
She's on the roof, isn't
That
it?
Wait for something else then.
I know, I think, yeah.
Stop it. Hey, come on.
Who about them mini balls with Lasprey in?
I do like Jill Scott. She's underrated, man. That's funny. See, this is what I mean. Like, the intro, it's cool. It's one take. It's uncut. Just vibes. And yes, the intro was nice and all. And there were some good soundbitey clips. You know, Sol Campbell comes into the scene. They ask him about a couple of the games that Sol Campbell scored in. And he just responded with the most smug face you will ever see. The podcast then kicks off as Gary Neville introduces the panel, introduces Sol Campbell. They start like asking like light-hearted questions. Sol Campbell not having any of it, which was really, really weird. And you know, they'll go into his youth career, go into his career when he played for Tottenham. He goes in ham on the mentality of Tottenham, talking about Alan Sugar and how like Sugar and the Tottenham board betrayed him, you know, because he was not signing a new deal with 2 years left. That Derby incident, as you've seen in the podcast, was at the start. Then they talk about his transfer to Arsenal. And Gary Neville says it as it is. He says that was one of the most controversial transfers in English football. And Sol Campbell was just having none of it. And it's like really awkward. One thing I did like to hear was Sol Campbell saying that the Arsenal mentality was different. You know, but Gary Neville even asked him, who did you get along with the most? And it's like a roundabout. Sol Campbell, I liked everybody. But who did you get on with the most? Oh, Cole and Henri. But so it may seem that watching it, the players may not have liked his characters and stuff like that. They go into a bit of detail about England, about the 49 games unbeaten, and Sol Campbell was a bit bitter about it. You know, he was like saying that I should have been captain, should have had more England caps. How can I be one of the best centre backs, but I wasn't captain? It made no sense. Like, he literally said this. He then said that England were a bit unfortunate over their game against Argentina in the World Cup, which, fair enough, understandably, they had an agreement about it. But overall, the podcast was very awkward. Even then, they were talking about his career after leaving Arsenal. There was nothing said about Notts County, you know. But a part where Sol Campbell bigs himself up, that he proved Arsene Wenger wrong. And that was really like okay, like he's bigging himself up here. Yeah, he never made that many appearances from Arsenal when he returned to Arsenal. Do you get what I mean? When Arsenal signed him, instead he ended up leaving for Newcastle, and he then says he wanted to be have an OBE, that he felt disrespected by England, that he wanted to be a manager, but he never had no opportunities to COVID, but also admitting that he wanted to be a mayor of London, but didn't want to be an MP. It was a really, really weird podcast. I'm not going to lie to you. This is a guy that is an invincible, that just didn't put the handbrake on, didn't relax, took himself so seriously, and just damn right just comes across as arrogant and entitled. I'm not going to lie to you. The podcast itself wasn't the worth the hour and 20 minutes in conclusion, right? Because Sol Campbell just took himself so seriously. He wouldn't even properly answer a question. He'd go in a roundabout and just deliberate. And it's like, why? Like, why? Well, it's just unnecessary. And even then, the outro happens, right? It doesn't just end there with, oh, thanks for coming in, and then no, they keep the cameras filming after it's all done. And then it was still awkward. Gary Neville and Wayne Rooney are having a laugh about him having a lot of massages, and Sol Campbell's just not having any of it. And Ian Wright barely had much to say, by the way, said he didn't know what to say because of how the podcast went. Gary Neville even said this was one of the most awkward podcasts he's ever been in. And it just doesn't bode well for a guy that wanted to be a mayor of London, wanted an MBE, OBE, or etc., and that wanted more opportunities in the management game. If he was more of a likable person that gave better answers to questions instead of going around in circles, speaking a load of everything but nothing at the same time, he might have had a lot more opportunities. And I will also defend him and say, look, his self-belief, if he never had that, he wouldn't be the footballer he was, the invincible. But he comes across like he deserved a statue at both Emirates and at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which is bonkers. But yeah, that's my overall take on the podcast. I don't think it's worth the hour and 20 minutes. I only listened to it because I wanted to make this video. It's the international break. I wanted to make more content for you guys. Yeah. How can you make Ian Wright feel uncomfortable in his own show? I don't understand. This is a guy that is an Arsenal legend and that is one of the most liked pundits in world football. I genuinely don't understand. But yeah, credit to Gary Neville. Asked the good hitting questions, tried to make things not so serious, tried to get Campbell to come out of his shell, which he wasn't having none of it. Actually, Roy Keane was able to get a couple of good answers from Campbell in the end, but it just wasn't a very good podcast in the end. One funny thing was when they were talking about the 49 games, when Man United eventually beat Arsenal at their ground, Sol Campbell was just not having any of it when Wayne Rooney was just smirking. So, but yeah, painful, but I enjoy making these kind of content for you guys. Let me know what you think if you did watch the podcast itself. So, Sol Campbell, man, just be a bit more likable, man. You've had everything to achieve. But yeah, in a bit, people. In a bit. Oh, subscribe! Subscribe, by the way. Subscribe.